Hello, and welcome to Unsheathed with your hosts, Kyle Gold and Cam Hirosaki. We hope that you enjoy the program. Please stick around afterwards. There'll be cake and blowjobs.
Hi, welcome to Unsheathed number 26. I am Roger Federer fan Kyle Gold.
And I am went to sleep before it was daytime in Australia, Cam Hirosaki.
And we're pleased to be coming back to you with our first unlive episode after further confusion.
We always have to go back to the status quo.
Exactly.
It's like a sitcom.
Otherwise it wouldn't be the status quo.
Exactly.
So we had a lot of fun at FC.
We did.
The live podcast, I think, was a great success. I've heard lots of people saying they had a great time there. I think one of the coolest things about being at FC and talking to people about the podcast was the people that came up to me, and this happened at least twice, and said, you know, I'm not really that interested in writing, but I really enjoy listening to the podcast.
Wow, are we that interesting?
I didn't think so, but I reckon maybe.
Because, I mean, we get a lot of emails from people thanking us for our writing advice, but I guess if people just listen to us, I'm okay with that, too.
I kind of feel it's like when I get email from straight people saying they love my gay porn.
See, and that amuses me for an entirely different reason.
Well, yeah, but you have visuals to go along with it, I'm sure.
Oh, I always have visuals.
But in any case, we wanted to really, again, just thank Further Confusion, the convention, and all the staff for all the work they did and, you know, allowing us to have our live show. And the chair of FC, Loran, was nice enough to listen to the podcast before we posted it this past week and got it back to us and said that it was fine.
Have we converted him?
I believe so. He said he wants to keep listening.
Oh, good.
I think actually we have to thank one of our listeners for that.
Okay.
Trendane actually said he turned Loran on to the podcast. So
there you go.
Thanks to Trendane as well. And thanks to everybody who came to the podcast. Again, you know, Saturday night at a convention, there's dancing, there's parties, and all kinds of crap going on. And you didn't need to be sitting in a room listening to us jabber on from 10:15 to past midnight.
Yeah, they all get to sit there and watch me drink.
But what was cool was that afterwards, for like an hour, people stuck around and hung out with us. So,
I looked at the time when we actually left the room. I was like, oh, have we really just been sitting here talking that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was amazingly cool. I mean, a bunch of people went off to parties and stuff, but it was just great to have time to hang around and talk with the fans afterwards. And I think I even signed a book or two. But
I didn't.
Well, you didn't have a book out.
Yeah, I know.
But, you know, some people brought legally permissible beverages, and we brought cookies, and it was just a lot of fun.
It was great, and it was, like I said during the actual show, it was like a night and day difference from our Rainforest show, which was also great, and which was, you know, probably one of my like favorite things to have done up at that point. But to go from a bunch of people who showed up to listen to us talk to go from that to, hey, we have a fan base, was really, it caught me off guard.
Yeah, at Rainforest, we did a little poll of the room and said how many people had listened to the podcast before, and I think there were like 3.
Yeah,
and at FC, we asked the same question, and nearly everybody in the room raised their hands. So it wasn't just people coming to say, hey, let's check out the Erotic Writing podcast. Maybe they'll say cock.
Yeah. And like you said, you know, it was party night. I mean, there were better things for people to be doing.
Exactly. I also want to specifically thank our guest, Jeff Eddy, goes by the name Brer, who showed up and sat down with us late at night and answered all of our questions about publishing and answered some of our fans' questions about it.
Yeah, the fans really seem to appreciate that, too.
They do. All of our listeners know we love Soulful Press, and it's just great to get to talk to them, and hopefully our fans can see that they don't just have a good eye for quality work, not to toot our own horns, but that they're also great guys to work with, just in general, and hang out with. And
they want to sell you new things to read, so check them out.
Of course they do, which sort of ties into the next items on my list. All the new Soulful books that were for sale at Further Confusion, if you did not make it to the convention, and we're very sorry we didn't see you there, are now available online. You can go to the Soulful pages and order them, and they will be at your door in your warm little paws in just about a week, or actually less than that, 3 days or so. flustered the otter into silence.
I was trying to
He's
think.
imagining other things in his warm little paws now.
See, I was going to say, like, you used the phrase warm little paws, and I was like, I need, like, a rejoinder for that, and I didn't think of one in time.
You need more wine.
I really don't, not after this weekend.
But in addition, I also have a new book coming out from Fur Planet in February, which is going to be released at Furry Fiesta in conjunction with the very kind folks at Furry Fiesta inviting me to be writing guest of honor there. It's called Bridges. I did a short reading from it at Further Confusion, which was received fairly well. And the lovely and talented Kiovi did some artwork for it. She has posted
some very nice artwork.
She has posted one of the pictures online, which is a very distracting picture. If you go to her Furfinity account, which is furfinity.net/user/Keovi, Keovi, you can see the picture. Or I believe I linked to it from my FA journal as well.
And if you actually go to Fur Planet's website, their page has the full cover up too.
Oh yeah, and
which is gorgeous.
And you can pre-order the book now. It won't be delivered till after Furry Fiesta, which is February 19th through 21st.
Yeah, so you have about 3 weeks.
So about 3 weeks from now. It won't be released till then, so I'm sure Fuzz will be busy the following week shipping out a bunch of orders. So keep him busy. Fuzz likes being busy sending people stuff, so pre-order the book and he will send it out end of February.
And now I'm looking forward to getting a copy of that in my own little paws. My warm little paws.
I am too. I can't wait to see how it comes out in print.
Did you see what Lovejoy said earlier today?
About putting his paw down a fox's pants?
No, he said, sorry, I can't come out and play today. I have to sit and read a novella about a three-way.
Ah, yes. And end it with the hashtag, I love my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that. That's very amusing. So, next week, we actually are going to be sitting down with NotTube, and we will have a special guest, Rikoshi, on this podcast, which I don't think Rikoshi has ever been on this podcast before.
I would have remembered another fox who wasn't you.
That's true. Although, he did sort of make an appearance in Unsheathed Presents number 2.
And
a very naughty appearance.
Within the confines of my dirty mind.
Yes.
Or his dirty mind, or someone's dirty mind.
NotTube and I will be talking to Rikoshi about his novel, The Seventh Chakra, which is a great read. It got a very nice review up on the Furry Book Review Live Journal community today. And NotTube and Rikoshi will then be talking to me about my new book, Shadow of the Father, which I've been getting some good feedback on. I think the most interesting feedback now is people seem to be competing to tell me how long it takes them to just read the book cover to cover without putting it down. Because I've had 2 people tell me already that it took one person 10 hours, took another person 8.
Oh, we're going to start doing speed runs.
So, yeah, I'm interested.
If people can sequence break reading your book.
So, anyway, we're looking forward to that. It should be fun. We'll try to keep the show fairly short, maybe 15, 20 minutes per book. And we're hoping to talk a little more about the writing process. And I'm actually sad that Hirosaki-san won't be able to join us, but he has been called away for another engagement that weekend, so we could not schedule around it.
Yeah, I have, like, clandestine ottery things to get up to that probably aren't as interesting as all that.
Get up to, get into.
Get gotten into.
Get gotten
yeah, no,
into.
if it was that, I'd be bragging about it, but I'm not.
And last note on books, we have a lot of little notes before we get into the emails this week, but the furry fandom's own recognition of its creative community, or at least the written part of its creative community, the Ursa Major Awards have opened their nomination period, which runs from, well, whenever you're listening to this podcast, through February 28th is when nominations close.
Right.
And then sometime in March, they announce the nominees, and then there's voting until about end of April, I want to say.
Right, because they usually announce them in May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're like the Hugo Awards with ears and tails.
Yes. Only you don't have to go to Worldcon to vote on them. So Hirosaki-san and I both have a couple things that are eligible, and we have mentioned them on our live journals, but we could do the quick 10-second rundown here.
Yeah, I only actually have 3 stories that are eligible from 2009, which is, kind of sad compared to other years of, comparing
way over 10 seconds already.
So I've got 2 stories that you can find on my FA. There's Tilo and the Desk Husky, which is really short, and then there's Pressure, which is really not short. And then there's my Thou Shalt Not Bear False Witness story in X.
And I've got a story in X as well, Honor the Sabbath, and a story in Heat, which I believe is called Talk With Your Mouth Full, and a story in New Fables, which is actually my first non-porn published story, which I'm very proud of, called Race to the Moon. I also put a couple of things up on FA over the course of the year. A story called Drifting, which a lot of people appreciated.
I really like Drifting.
And a story called Modern History, which is in the League of Canids universe.
And I really like dingoes.
It features a dingo and a bear. And if you purchase the Unsheathed DVD, you can hear me reading Modern History. And I also have a novel.
This little thing you might have heard of.
Called Out of Position, which is eligible in the Best Novel category. And the compilation X is also eligible in the Other Literary Work category, because it's an anthology.
So yeah, if you vote for that, you can have us both win at the same time, and you don't need to pick favorites.
Exactly. So it's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win, I believe.
Does that make it full of win?
It is full of win. Nicely done.
You're welcome.
And with that, I think we're going to get to some questions. We want to encourage you to keep sending questions in, although we have a big backlog, and because we're trying to keep these podcasts kind of time-focused, we're not going to do a 4-hour podcast to get through our backlog of questions. But do keep sending them in, and we will keep reading them. So, here we go. Hey, it's Skip again. I listened to your episode on horror and was surprised that Edgar Allan Poe didn't get a mention. While he wrote mostly short stories, he was definitely a master of suspense, and came closer than any other author to write in jump moments, such as in The Fall of the House of Usher. My actual question is more concerned with how you think interspecies relationships should be handled. This is most important, I think, with straight relationships. If a raccoon and a bear get together and make babies, sorry, no blowjobs, what are the babies? Are they a hybrid of the two parents? One or the other? Neither? While a bear-coon hybrid isn't that far out, what about something more far out, like a horse falling in love with a mouse? Even an author of gay erotica in the writing of an environment-rich, believable novel may have to deal with straight relationships. Please discuss how you personally would handle this situation. Thanks for your time and blowjob references. Skip.
First off, did we really not mention Poe at all in the horror episode?
We might not have.
That is a glaring oversight.
Poe always seemed to me, I tried to read Fall of the House of Usher one time, and I'm kind of ashamed to say I couldn't get through it.
I've not read it. I mean, I'm very familiar with his short work, though.
Yeah, I did. I love Mask of Red Death and The Gold Bug and
Cask of Amontillado.
And just tons of great work. But I don't really recall him being the jumpy kind of author.
Yeah, I put him in the same thing as Lovecraft, where it's more like human despair sort of horror.
Although I do have to say that Lovecraft did some good jump moments, just because it was kind of like, hey, we're walking through an abandoned house, and then, suddenly many tentacle monster drops down from the ceiling and eats one of our party in front of us.
Oh, okay. All right, so maybe Poe didn't write that. But
not quite. But in terms of the interspecies relationships, it is something that throughout Argaea and the Forrester universe, I never have people actually discussing it, but there's points in Out of Position where they make reference to... I should say, actually, to preface this, that I kind of feel like we had talked about this on the podcast before, and Hirosaki-san says we have not.
I don't think we have.
But there are points where people... They talk about, Dev saying, I'm going to fool around a bit before settling down. And so there's a whole thing where other species are good for playing around with, but when you want to have a real relationship, you settle down with someone of your own species.
Yeah.
And Argaea is kind of the same, especially where it relates to the nobility and lineages and stuff. The way that I deal with hybrids is I don't have hybrids in any of my worlds. I, a little bit... stick to the biology of the animals, and hybrids tend to not make a lot of sense. I kind of feel like if you have a world where hybrids are possible, then eventually what's going to happen is everybody's going to become some kind of mixed hybrid. I
Right.
mean, if you look around the United States now, there's people that are, 1/8 to 1/4 Cherokee. There's people that are all kinds of mixed race because, we're America's just a big melting pot.
Right.
I heard that on the TV growing up. But, and I kind of feel like if you have hybrids and you have to have rules for hybrids, and then you have, well, what if your horse-mouse hybrid marries a bear-coon hybrid? What kind of kids do they have? And, it just got all too difficult to think about. And I kind of like the restrictions of...
Yeah.
You have to marry someone of your own species in order to have kids.
And I've seen a lot of other, well, not a lot of it. I have seen other bits of furry writing that do specifically call out the, hey, you can have a cross-species relationship because you can fool around and not worry about, knocking the girl up.
Exactly, no pregnancy.
Yeah, and I mean, just saying, like, how do you, even as a writer of gay erotica, how do you do, like, you still have to handle straight relationships. And I think that, if you have a cross-species straight relationship, that could provide some interesting texture and conflict.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, you could deal with sort of, like racial issues and cultural issues, whether or not, one family is accepting of it or not, how do you deal with the fact that, yes, there's might be a stigma where yes, we're married, but we can't have children and everyone knows that. It's not like a secret, one of us is infertile and just we don't tell people, but people can just look at the couple and go, okay, yeah, you're not going to have kids,
right.
That sort of thing.
Which also provides a venue for inappropriate questions asked in public, like people do of gay couples with kids, like, how did you have kids? And,
magic.
It's none of your business is apparently not a polite answer. But there's a couple other furry worlds that deal with the question, interestingly, that we're kind of familiar with. The world of Thousand Leaves actually specifically implies that disease is not a problem across species, except in that there is this strain of disease that can be passed across species. And that forms kind of the core of the book Thousand Leaves that Rikoshi wrote. The other one that comes to mind is the New Tibet universe, in which gay relationships are okay, but cross-species relationships are frowned on. And so it's kind of interesting how this... I haven't really come across a furry world that really dealt with full hybrids being acceptable. And I've by no means read all the books out there, but
I mean, there are plenty of fandom characters and first notice and stuff. But I mean, that's outside of the boundaries of any established worlds that are built, and so that's, I think,
isn't it like the dragon cat with one angel wing and one demon wing or something? Ross Gibson's world. Did she allow hybrids?
I'm only dabbled, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, all I know is she allows brutal murders.
I'm okay with that.
So there you go. And
also, to address one other point that Skip does mention, I'm pretty sure that straight people still have blowjobs.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, blowjobs cut out the whole problem of having kids.
Yeah.
So there you go, Skip. Hope that helps. We'll move on to a letter from Kaz. Kaz, who is now a fellatio fanboy. He writes, "Hey guys, me again. Decided I'd respond to the question you posed in episode number 21 asking how I motivate myself to write. The answer is complicated, but I'll do my best to lay it out concisely. As far as I can tell, there are 3 factors that motivate me. First, I'm motivated on my present project in the hopes that it will one day be published. I've had thoughts off and on all my life about having a novel published, but until recently it never seemed a real possibility. Now that I'm this close, I simply must follow through and at least give it my best shot. Second is simply the fact that I'm being constructive. My free time up until I took up writing was filled with video games, internet forum ramblings, etc., and it left my life feeling devoid of progress. When I write, I feel like I'm actually moving forward, creating and accomplishing something. Third, and most importantly, it's because the ideas won't leave me alone. Ever since I was a kid, I would take little ideas and build them in my daydreams. Thank you, by the way, for not saying ever since I was a cub. I would take little ideas and build them in my daydreams, fleshing out the details until I'd created several small universes inside my head. It's just what my mind does when it's bored. Whenever I get an idea for a story and I start getting serious about it, the floodgates of creativity burst open and there's no stopping it. Since I started writing my present project at the start of NaNoWriMo, I can't count the number of times I've scrambled for a pen and paper while out somewhere, or reluctantly got out of bed to write down some detail that I just can't let myself forget. Anyway, that's my answer. Hope it was interesting.
Well, like they say, the trick to creative success is 3% inspiration and 97% not being distracted by the internet.
Yeah, I agree with that. Some of my most creative periods have been, I'll say sitting in coffee shops without stuff to distract me, but you can get the internet in coffee shops now.
Yeah, I need to stop doing that.
I think my most productive periods, honestly, are when I've been thinking about a story during the day so much that I cannot wait to sit down and get my fingers on a keyboard. Okay, I was going to say pause. I was going to go there.
It's okay. You can go there.
We could say pause.
I don't judge you.
But this all sounds very familiar to me. I love seeing work, and having had a novel published does not reduce your motivation to get another novel published, if that makes any sense.
I think I know what you mean.
But mostly it's just to see the projects finished. Because I know I have a venue for them, whether it ends up being a print venue or just something to post online. But I know I have a venue, and I want to see the project done. I want to see the story finished and find out what's going to happen.
Yeah. So, I think I've said on the podcast before, this isn't something I do just because it's a hobby. It's because there is this real drive where I need to get this story out of my head and into some form that other people can appreciate.
Yeah.
And, it's sort of this compulsion that will almost go to insanity if that itch is not scratched.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing about being constructive, I totally sympathize with, because, I used to play more video games. I used to watch movies, and now if I play a video game, I have this little guilt in the back of my head that says, why aren't you doing something productive with your time? And it's just, it's not the kind of thing where I say, all right, well, I'll go, clean my room or something. Writing is something I actually really enjoy, and it's constructive, and it makes me feel good to do it. So,
and that's what makes you so awesome.
Totally on board there.
Aw.
Aw.
No, but I mean that, and my biggest problem is I know I don't write quickly, and I might almost even say ponderously when I actually get to a keyboard. And so when I do squander free time where I could be getting writing done, I will beat myself up over it terrifically. So,
which, honestly, I have to say just kind of makes it worse. Because if you beat yourself up over it, then you start to get this whole guilt shame thing going on where you're like, oh, I wasted my time. And then you have more pressure the next time you sit down at a keyboard, like, I absolutely can't waste this time because it'll make me feel horrible afterwards. And, the more you relax and let yourself enjoy the stories that you're writing, I think the easier and faster they'll come.
I just have to tackle pounce the moment.
Like an otter.
Snuggle it up like an otter. Damn it. You beat me up to my own punchline before I was even finished talking.
Oh, that's why we work so well together.
Yeah.
That's what makes you awesome.
We fit together really well. We mesh very smoothly.
Yes.
Quick, distract the audience.
Kit's still in the room, He's right over there staring at us. Well, he still has his pants on.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm going to let you read the next one because it's about as long as previous two put together.
Speaking of that, dear podcasters who have sheets but are not in them presently, I hope. Well, our last little discussion there might lend cause to doubt. Writing inspiration. In episode 21, you asked for people to write in and tell them what motivates us to write our stories. For me, what motivates me is my own life. The crazy, once-in-a-lifetime things that seem to happen to all of us despite our best efforts to fall into efficient, monotonous routines. Despite all of the things that make us unique individuals, most people's lives are comprised of long stretches going through repetitive motions. Work, eat, sleep, maybe fuck before sleeping, repeat. Find time for small interruptions, but which are themselves repetitive. Do laundry on the weekends. Visit family on the holidays. Eat with others instead of alone. Play WoW instead of sleeping, working, or fucking. Wow, these lives are... anyway. To me, the reason I write...
Say it.
I don't play WoW.
I don't either.
I sleep, work, and fuck. To me, the reason I write and tell stories is to
And
share the
give
moments
MC blowjobs.
when, yes. You can have a free pen. You don't need to fluster me to earn one.
I
me-
have a pen.
To me, the reason I write and tell stories is to share the moments where we can manage to break out of this routine for some reason, be it good or bad, and have a truly wild experience that makes us feel alive. I want readers to live vicariously, enduring a fantastic situation that causes them to long for something missing in their own lives that they found in my prose, a relationship that didn't fall apart, or a path that should have been explored, or maybe just really hot okapi who does neat things with his tongue. Don't look at me like that.
I wasn't even looking at you.
You were.
I was not.
You were wondering what I was thinking about this okapi.
I know exactly what you were thinking about the okapi.
I bet you don't. Porn presents the opportunity for vicarious life because everybody wants the sex to be hotter. You, me, Mark Sanford, Tiger Woods, everybody.
Hotter meaning different things to different people, of course.
Yes.
In our case, it means with fictional animal people.
Yeah, and Tiger Wolf. Right now.
Hey, he's another guest
I was
of
going to say,
honor.
he's
at
your
Furry
fellow
Fiesta.
guest of honor.
He is. Me and Tiger Wolf and Michelle Light.
Yes.
Come to Furry Fiesta, Dallas, February 19th.
We'll both be there. We're doing another podcast.
We are. We're going to be like all full of podcasts.
Yes.
But anyway, go on. Sorry.
Point to the second. Questions about maintaining energy. Since starting to listen to your podcast and your tweets, I have been working on a couple story ideas, whichever ideas have good energy at the time. I am normally a pretty slow, methodical writer who edits as he goes, so trying to capture the spontaneous energy is tough for me. I see two problems in my current writing approach, the main one being that I have a nigh-obsessive desire to reread my own writing. Whether in the form of work emails, porn stories, forum posts, Christmas cards, whatever I write, I have to reread and that wastes a lot of time. But I always spawn edits out of it, so I keep doing it. Should I mend my ways, and how? Should we answer that one now, actually? Because this kind of goes on a while.
Sure, we can break this up a little bit. Well, you go ahead if you have a thought.
So, as I was saying, I'm kind of a slow writer too, and I don't know if I've broken myself out of the desire to constantly re-edit as I go, because as I think we've both mentioned before, that will get you stuck in a continual feedback loop, and you'll never get your first draft done if you do that.
Which is kind of what it sounds like he's doing.
Yeah, and it's like, should you break yourself of your habit of going back and rereading your own stuff before you're done? I would be inclined to say yes, actually, to be honest.
I would agree with that. I would say do an experiment. Try taking one of your story ideas. Next time you get a story idea, just something short, and think about it for like a week. Just keep running through it in your head. And when you get to the point where you're ready to write it down, just pull an Ian Fleming and just write. Don't go back and look at what you've written until you're finished with the story. Then put it away for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or something, and then come back to it.
Yeah, and see how that goes. Hopefully, that'll see some quicker, more tractable results.
Yeah, you don't have to stop your whole self-editing in cold turkey, but you do want to maybe scale back on it to the point where you can be productive.
No, I definitely agree with that. Because really, at the end of the day, if we're not being productive, we're not doing our jobs.
Exactly.
Because really, that's all we can do is produce. Produce what? That's another story.
Yes.
Okay.
Production for use.
Yes. And then he goes on to say, of secondary concern is the number of story ideas I am simultaneously working on. Right now I have 6, with all but one clearly intended as short Yivstar porn stories. The 6th I intend to really delve deep on character development and then see how the plot develops. Right now I'm writing the stories that I feel have the most potential, but am I playing a dangerous game by starting projects and not committing to finish them properly? Or promptly, sorry. Well, if you're Kyle, apparently you can work on 6 projects at once, but I certainly can't do that.
Well, yeah, it all depends on having a good sense of what you can finish.
Yeah.
If you're working on 6 projects at once and none of them are getting finished and you're getting bored of them before you can finish them, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
If you're working on 6 projects at once and it takes you as long as it would to write each of them in serial, then that's fine. Then you don't need to do anything different. I mean, I like to have a couple projects that I can flip back and forth between, because when I get stuck on one, I flip over to another one.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, as we said at Further Confusion, you've got to find what works for you. And to ask, are you doing something wrong? I mean, my question back would be, is what you're doing working?
Yeah. And for me, my trek goes, man, I should really get back to working on that idea. And then I don't.
Yeah. I was actually thinking, a couple of people mentioned that they wanted to see me post more short porn gift star stories online. And I was trying to think of why I'd gotten away from that. And I realized that the last couple years I've been really more focused on novel projects and longer works. And
yeah.
I actually wrote, The Bridges, which is coming out, started as a short gift star porn story and just got out of control. There was another short story that I wrote, I think it was last year or the year before, that I meant to post, but then that is going to turn into a novel project. Then there was another story that I wrote last year, which I was going to post, but then that's going to turn into a novel project. There was another story that I wrote last year that I sent around to some people, and they were like, well, you need to develop this more. This isn't complete. You need to write more for it. So I didn't post that. Another short story that I wrote last year is going into a secret project this year that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. So, I've written these short stories. It's just they keep either getting out of control or just, being destined for something else. So I think I have to get back to a little challenge mode, just write little fluffy things that I enjoy, that people enjoy reading.
Yeah, and actually 2 of the 3 things that no, those are all 2008, never mind.
Your Taylor in the Desk Husky was kind of like that.
Yeah, that's only a couple thousand words. It's really short.
Short and fluffy and cute.
Yeah.
And hot.
Oh, if it's hot, then I did my job. But even then, it's not like super porny. But it is meant to titillate, so there you go.
All right, finish the email.
All right.
I hope that answered your question, Jonathan. And by the way, it was great to meet him at Further Confusion.
Oh, yeah, he's a good partier.
He is, and good conversationalist. He came up and chatted with me a couple times at different points in the convention, and it was really fun to hang around with.
Yeah, we had a lot of alcohol together.
I heard about that.
He goes on with Fox speak, proto-logistic sexual euphemisms. Someone after my own heart with that sort of thing.
Yes, I know.
Kyle, if you can't call it head at FC, then I feel that it is time to define your own G-rated Vulpine lexicon, Fox speak. I propose that at all G-rated cons you should refer to blowjobs as fox kisses, handjobs as fox handshakes, vaginal sex as making more foxes, anal sex as fox poker. Fox poker is particularly apt, as it leads to the sensible and suggestive all-in fox and fox busting out. The advantages of this system are its creativity, ease of memorization, and audience participation. Another strength of it is that other X-rated terms can be replaced by G-rated terms ad hoc, such as in the following euphemisms whose definitions are left to the reader: working fox, watering a fox, sicking your dogs on a fox, fox family reunion, and that one time KM fed a gumshoe fox some calamari. Wow. I should have finished reading this email before I read it out loud.
That boy ain't right.
If necessary, a mustelid lexicon could also be derived from the Vulpine lexicon. Drenth, which he confirms is pronounced like as in creme de menthe, even though he stole it from a name of a Dutch town whose name sounds nothing at all like that.
And in fact, menthe is technically pronounced menthe because it's French. So I should call him Dranth from now on. I think that'd be amusing.
Well, I know we have at least one Dutch listener.
Yeah?
So,
as long as they're not Dutch French. No bit nukers on this show. So I have to say I was very amused by all this. I will not to be kind of like the guy who takes funny things seriously, although I do that a lot, but it's kind of a little bit of a sore point with me sometimes about the over-sexualization of foxes specifically. not to say that foxes aren't sexual, because if you listen to this podcast and you think that, then you obviously are not listening well enough. But if you listen to this podcast, you will also note that otters are pretty much as sexual as foxes.
I have, in fact, been called a water fox more than once.
Yes, and I've been called a land otter, actually. But
That sounds like a kind of car.
the point is, the whole... gets being very amused by this conversation. The whole sort of over-sexualization of foxes sort of bothers me on a couple levels. First of all, because it kind of implies that there's nothing to foxes but sex.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to put those two words right together right like that, but you get my meaning. But the other point is, it also sort of implies that there's no other species that really are that into sex in the fandom, which, if you've been in the furry fandom for more than 5 minutes, you know is not true.
Yeah. Otters, rabbits, huskies,
Dragons.
wolves. Stop me if I'm getting onto it.
Yeah, unicorns, Pegasi.
Oh my god. You just reminded me of something hilarious that's way too long to get into. I'll have to show it to you later.
So while I kind of like your concept, I think we could replace it with any number of different species and maybe genericize it a little bit more. But I will have to say kudos on a very entertaining email, and
yeah.
And we do appreciate that. Well done, sir.
Yes, and thanks for that party invite. The neutrally buoyant Super Obama is something I will never forget.
All right, you had a better FC than I did. We're gonna try to keep the show a little short. I got one last email that I want to read, which has a fairly quick response, I think. So
Sure.
We'll run through that and then we'll finish up. This is from Trendane, whom we thanked earlier. He writes, on the subject of mourning lost ideas, I once had a story which I was certain was going to be awesome, and it still may. I had the first 3 paragraphs, and they were the absolute perfect words to set up the story. Then I went to the store and neglected to save before I walked away. While I was out, we lost power, and those perfect words were lost. I find myself crippled and having a very difficult time putting pen to paper, digitally speaking, to start again. Is this sort of a get over it and write that wolf, fox, prawn, damn it situation? Also, as a question, I often see spelling errors in people's stories. Unfortunately, they are often the kind which no spell checker will catch. Mistakes with the use of two, and two, there, and there, 4, and 4, and my personal pet peeve, the then-than reversal. What do you guys do to prevent these sort of mistakes from getting through into your finished works? Trendane Sparks. So, for the first one, I'm also completely paranoid about losing the perfect words that I just written. I get over it by having edited a bunch of my stories and realizing that the first things that I write for a story are never the perfect words, and I can always recreate something again. So It would be a get over it situation.
Yeah, like you've said before, the first third of your story is the part that you're going to be rewriting the most.
Yeah, exactly. Everything changes. And I understand that you're very attached to the words, and I believe me, I sympathize with that feeling about, I've just written the perfect thing, I've got to save it, it can't be lost. I save drafts of my novels obsessively, even if I've only written a half a page. You know, God forbid I have to go back and recreate that page, which I just created. But, you know, the whole thing is you've created it once, you can create it again.
Yeah, and I mean, there have been times where I've started an idea where it's, I didn't lose any of the writing, but the idea just fizzled anyway, and nothing became of it. So the same thing is like, okay, you have an idea, the words fizzle, but you still have the idea. Go for it.
Yeah, exactly. On the second one, I'm going to give the abbreviated version of my spell checker rant, which is, one of the pairs you didn't mention is form and from, or roll and roll. I see those a lot in published works. People, you can not only rely on spell checkers to spell check your documents. You need to read through it. Mm-hmm. If possible, read it aloud if it's a short story, because then you catch mistakes. But you need to edit your document.
Yeah, or find somebody else to help you with it. Like I said before about my own work, I am terrible at copy editing my own work, which is why I always show it to other people. I don't think it's because I'm a bad writer or necessarily a bad typist. Just those errors will crop up into your writing, and I'm just not good at spotting them because my brain will just gloss over them in my own work. And so I know enough to know, okay, let somebody else look at this.
Exactly. And if
There's no shame in that. You don't need to credit them either when you post it online.
Nope, not at all.
You can just cut them out and make them bitter. I'm kidding.
Well, not about the bitter part.
Not about the bitter part. No, I'm sweet and delicious and something.
Yes. You're a freshwater otter, not a saltwater otter.
That's true. Although, I was going to take that places.
I think our listeners can follow.
Yes.
So anyway, in sum, do not let the spell checker be your only reliance on. Do not let the spell checker be the only thing you rely upon to spell check your work. You either need to learn to read or acquire a friend who can read your work for you. And
we've given our grammatical, syntactical advice books listings before.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank everyone for listening. Again, thanks to everyone who came out at FC and all the staff there. And
thank you. That was really awesome.
We are so looking forward to Furry Fiesta and doing another podcast down there with a whole different audience. Maybe not a whole different audience. We might have some repeat people. But I
can think of at least a couple of people who are in the audience who will be there again.
Yeah, I think so. But that's going to be a lot of fun. Write us letters, unsheathedpodcast@gmail.com. Vote for your favorite books by your favorite authors in the Ursa Majors, even if those authors aren't us. The important thing is that you recognize the people that you like.
Yeah, it was a good year for furry writing. So
it was. There's a lot of good stuff out there. And follow us at Unsheathed on FA.
Yeah, where we've finally showcased our new Unsheathed fan art, have we? It's not on our page. It's on Bobby's page.
Yeah, it is on Bobby's page. We need to get that up on our page. And if you're at Furry Fiesta, we will be selling the Unsheathed DVDs there as well. They're not video DVDs, they're just audio, but there was too much stuff to fit on a CD. So.
Yeah, but they have free porn, so...
They do have free porn, and we are not selling them online, so only at conventions.
You have to look us in the eye in person and say, let me buy your naughty podcast.
Yes. However, we will sign the DVDs if you...
I did. I did sign one for someone.
I signed one as well, yeah. And Kit even signed it.
Yeah, he got the trifecta.
And with the word trifecta, we're going to leave you for now. I am, as always, Kyle Gold.
And I am Cam Hirosaki. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Or 3.
Or 3.
Well,
I meant I'm not going to be on the podcast next week.
Oh, that's right. We will actually see people in 3 weeks at Furry Fiesta.
With my hat, which is cool.
All right. Good night, everyone.